this is not a Baltimore catastrophe, not a Maryland catastrophe. This is a national economic catastrophe as well. As you mentioned, I mean, this port is one of the busiest and most active ports inside of the country. And so this is not just going to have an impact on Maryland. This is going to impact the farmer in Kentucky. This is going to impact the auto dealer in Ohio. This is going to impact the restaurant owner in Tennessee.
And that is exactly my concern. You shut down a major port, we all feel it, not just the people in Baltimore. Joining me now, Army and Marine veteran Jason Nelson, to expand on this a bit more and help stupid people like me understand it. Okay, Jason, why are we feeling an impact? I don't understand. I live in Houston. I ain't anywhere near Baltimore. In fact, I don't even visit anymore because I don't want to get shot. Why does any of this matter to me?
Jesse, first of all, I want to compliment you on your tweet immediately afterwards. As a person who has been a ship's captain, I can tell you were very incorrect in your assumptions, and I loved it. So it was pointing out the fallacy of a lot of people. And I'm glad that you owned it. A lot of people like to talk about these things, and they don't really understand what they're talking about. So let's real quick get into the basics. First, the bridge is down, and they're not going to clear it until they've obviously extracted all the human remains, and that's a tragedy. But for 30 days, it's going to take about 30 plus days. This is direct on-the-ground knowledge I have. 30 days to clear out the harbor in order to clear the shipping lanes. Once you've agreed and opened up the shipping lanes, it's going to take at least 2 years for the city of Baltimore to create an alternate hazardous materials route. Remember, the importance of the bridge was that you can't use the tunnels that go into the area to move any flammable materials. Let's get beyond the obvious commuter aspect of the bridge. So it's going to take 2 years to reestablish just a land route and 5 years to reestablish the bridge. Why does this matter? Well, what you're talking about is a port that rotates and oscillates in between being one of the top 15 to the top 10 ports in the entire United States. You're talking about over $60 billion in goods that went through there last year. And in particular, what you're talking about are goods that are not the sexy goods. These are not finished and completed items, although half of it does have to do with automobiles. It's your lumber, it's your fertilizers, it's your fuels. It's the things that make this country able to produce items and vice versa to ship out exports for other countries. This is a massive impact across the board. Not only will we see inflationary pressure from the cost of moving goods further to other ports, but you're also going to see that there's going to be longer delays and wait times because access to these ports are extremely important. It's part of what caused this tragedy was the fact that these ships are expected to turn around in under 48 hours. So as far as the average American's wallet, you may not see the impact today. You will see the impact start to slowly increase over the next couple of years. This sort of has a butterfly effect, and the ripples are just going to get larger as we wait.
Jason, can you clear up some things for people? Like, I really do. I had this question. I put it out publicly, and I had a bunch of guys who knew what they were talking about reach out and tell me. So I want you to tell everybody, why does it take so long to open up the port again? I understand, as you pointed out, we have human remains. I understand there's a big freaking bridge in the way that has to be moved so the ships can get through. I get that. But when they say months and months and months, that sounds crazy, but I understand there's a reasonable explanation. Why does it take so long to get the ships moving again?
Okay, so there's a couple of reasons for that. So primarily when we're talking about removing debris from that area, shipping lanes are very narrow, especially in particular this harbor. It's a very narrow shipping lane, which means that any obstructions or any future obstructions, so you don't just have the very narrow channel in the center that you need to worry about, but all of the debris on either side. This is a moving body of water. It's huge. The tidal motions are going to shift things around. So they're going to want to extract every aspect of that bridge and all of the material that's gone down, which is going to require BD rigs, that's going to require tugs, that's going to require, it's a massive undertaking. So every piece of that a bridge that could harm a vessel that would travel through that channel has to be removed in order to clear it for shipping lanes. And that's primarily why it takes long. It's under a huge body of water. You're talking about 120 feet deep, 130 feet deep down there. You're talking about massive pieces of steel that are going to have to be pulled apart. So this is just a huge undertaking. And again, it can't start until they've completed the recovery. And once that has started, It's a very delicate process, and you want to make sure that you clear an area. And once you clear an area, you don't know what's going to fall back in there. Again, these are moving water. It's a huge body of water.
Jason, I'm going to ask a really, really gruesome question, and I should probably apologize to everybody before I even ask it. But I'm curious because my sons asked me this weekend, you mentioned the human remains, they're still looking for them. Well, this is a little while ago. My sons asked me, where are the bodies? And I told them, son, they're probably never finding those people. They're shark food by now. Am I crazy? Is there a chance they recover those bodies?
I don't know enough about the specific place in which they were at the bridge. I do know that they were with a motor vehicle. You saw the bridge come down. Obviously, people have watched it in fast motion, but let's just hypothetically say that somebody's sitting on top of a van, enjoying their dinner. This horrible tragedy happens. When it collapses, I'm sorry, I'm going to look over at it as I see it. So as you see, it falls in multiple pieces. So think about the San Francisco earthquake in 1989, where you have a segment of pavement that has collapsed on top of someone. It took them weeks to be able to pull all the human remains out of that tragedy. Now add the water element. Now this is buried underwater. So it's possible that the bodies could have drifted in. Again, this is very gruesome, and I apologize to any of your viewers who are squeamish about this, but the bodies drift. The bodies could be trapped under something. And unfortunately, you are talking about there's a lot of bottom feeders in that bay. Obviously, Maryland is known for its crabs, and that's a horribly disgusting thought. And so they will begin to obviously go after any remains that are down there. It's horrible for the families. It's gruesome for any first responders who are tasked with finding this. It's not going to be a pretty sight. And unfortunately, there most likely will be just a point where they will declare that they've done everything they can. And if they are, it's similar to digging in a site, doing any building that you might do. If you come across something midway, you stop again and then you reassess. As a matter of fact, this happened with the World Trade Center, as you're aware, when they were rebuilding that. So it's gruesome, but where are the bodies? If they weren't destroyed by the horrible, just volatile and violent nature of that attack, then most likely, again, they're going to have to be removed from a collapsed bridge. It's just a horrible thought.
It is. It's freaking awful, but that did explain it. All right, let's shift gears here. Jason, you are no longer in the United States military, and you're welcome to elaborate on the reasons why in a moment. But along those same lines, 38 chaplains are petitioning the Supreme Court. Why?
Well, here's the thing. Chaplains within units, as you're well aware, are not there just to lead religious services. They often are at the front of the family readiness group. That's usually the group that is assigned to, let me phrase that differently. That's generally spouses and other people who've gotten together to create an environment that can create a support sector for those units when they deploy, when they're in station, they're having issues, a new mother, so forth and so on. So the chaplains not only act as a liaison between the FRG and the units themselves, but they also play a huge role in understanding the mental capacity, the sort of where everybody's at in their heart and in their head. And as you're aware, downrange, that's hugely important. But right now, what they're being told is they're not allowed to talk about their faith when counseling soldiers. They're not allowed to use, and that's the very basis of where they draw their strength from. And being told that they can't do this, being told that there are being limits being put on this, defeats the whole purpose of the chaplain corps. And I'm sure you had your experiences, I've had my experiences, but these are very dedicated individuals in most instances who are very important to a unit's morale and cohesiveness, especially during kinetic activity or post-kinetic activity.